Hey guys, welcome back to Craig's Horror House, the channel that talks all things horror. Now, if you are new to the channel, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all future updates. Okay then, well, a lot of you guys have been saying to me to go and watch Hereditary, and I just finished watching it after renting it on Amazon Prime, and now I totally get it. I get why you guys wanted me to watch this movie and do a review. This is hands down one of the best horror movies that I've seen in the last 10 years. I don't think a horror film has been this good for me personally since the very first Conjuring. Now, everything from the shocking story to the incredible acting, I was blown away, guys. Now, I actually reviewed Talk to Me recently on the channel, and I commented about how good the acting was, but bloody hell, Hereditary definitely knocks it out of the park. Not only that, but I believe this may be, yes, I think so, it might be the first time where I actually shed some tears in a horror film. Not because I was scared, but more because of the tragedy that happens, which I will get onto in just a moment. Hereditary was released in 2018, and it follows a mum and her family where, as soon as the movie begins, they are faced with a bereavement of the grandmother passing away. Now, there are loads of little hints thrown around the movie indicating that this grandmother may have done a deal with some evil spirit, maybe even put the wheels in motion for a sacrifice. There are hints from start to finish, and of course, as we all know, well, if you guys have seen the movie, the grandmother is part of a cult, or was part of a cult because she's now dead. But before I get on to that, I just have to talk about the huge shocking death scene of 13-year-old daughter Charlie. So, you've got Charlie's brother Peter, who wants to go to a party, and Annie, the mum, wants Peter to take sister Charlie with him, which he does end up doing. However, while at the party, Peter, you know, he wants to smoke some weed, and he gets his sister to go and grab some food and cookies and cakes and all of that stuff. However, Charlie has a severe nut allergy and doesn't realise that there are nuts in the food that she's eating, and Charlie ends up struggling to breathe. So brother Peter carries her to the car and he races down the highway to try and get her to a hospital as soon as possible. Now at this stage, Charlie is really struggling to breathe, and she ends up opening the back car window trying to get some sort of air, and then something ends up appearing in the middle of the road, causing Peter to swerve the car, and Charlie, with her head sticking out of the window, she ends up being decapitated when, you know, she ends up hitting a post, and it's proper jaw-dropping, and I tell you what, it made me feel a little bit uneasy. This is the moment where I ended up shedding a little bit of a tear, because Peter just sits there. He doesn't know what to do. It's quite silent, it's eerie silent actually, and he's just in a shock. He's too scared to look around at the back seat, and then these little tears start rolling down his face. His whole life has just changed for the worse. It's awful, guys. Even the aftermath of the mum screaming and howling on the floor, and then there's that dinner scene where the mum completely loses her shit. Now, I just gotta say, Toni Collette, who plays Annie, the mum, was absolutely next level with her acting. It was award-winning. We learn in the movie as well that Annie has been through some proper shit in her life, and this is before the death of her daughter. It's almost like, how much can one person take? Now, Hereditary is a pretty long horror film, just over the 2 hours mark, and I was invested from start to finish. Not once was I bored, not once was I looking at the clock, and not once did I pause the movie to go and make a coffee. I was in the zone. I was engrossed in this horrible, tragic situation that was unfolding in front of me. The things that happened to this family after the death of Charlie are really, truly horrific. with Annie going through a very tough time since Charlie's death, Annie's husband Steve, he starts to think that his wife is in the middle of having a mental breakdown of some sort, but she's not. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's in a really bad place mentally, but, you know, there is some spooky shit happening. Remember now, guys, the grandmother who was dead at the start of the film, she is part of a cult of worshippers, and this cult, they are worshipping a demon called Paimon, I think is pronounced. Now, Paimon needs a human male sacrifice, you know, to use in some sort of weird body thing. Now, this was originally going to be Annie's brother, but we learned that Annie's brother actually committed suicide back when she was much younger, so that plan fell through. So the next in line is Peter. However, this isn't made very obvious in the movie, not until at least the very last 5 minutes. And tell you what, guys, there is no happy ending in this film. The whole film is really well written and very well superbly acted. The level of this film in terms of horror and the intensity moments throughout is at 100%. But honest to God, the last 20 minutes of this film is ramped up to an almighty 200%. My heart was pounding and racing in those last 20 minutes, and I had a bit of a sweat on as well. It was so brilliantly messed up. There's a scene where the grandmother's body is discovered hidden in the attic, rotting away, and her head is missing. Annie believes that if she burns this book, then her son Peter will be safe, but she thinks that she's going to be sacrificing herself when she burns this book, but it actually turns out to be her husband Steve. Annie then gets totally possessed and turns into the crazy demon. Now, towards the end of the movie, Peter ends up in the attic and he looks up and he ends up seeing his mum dangling from this beam, slicing her neck over and over again with some wire from the piano until she decapitates herself. What is it with everyone losing their heads in this movie? Like, honestly, this family had no hope of surviving, and in the very last 5 minutes, Peter ends up being hailed King Paimon by the demon worshippers. Yeah, it's such a shocking ending to a very disturbing movie, and I am here for it. I loved it. This movie is friggin' incredible. I don't know why I didn't watch it much sooner, but do you know what, guys? Better late than never, as they say. It's a really dark and twisted tale of sacrifice and demons and real family tragedy all thrown in together, and it takes you on this really wild ride. Now, Alex Wolff, who plays Peter, the brother, did a fantastic job in my opinion. There's a scene where Annie is having a nightmare and she's telling her son in the nightmare that she never wanted him, she never wanted to be his mother, and he starts crying and my heart was literally breaking for him. I just wanted to give Peter a massive hug. Little Charlie was also amazing, although the scene where she ends up cutting the head off a dead pigeon was a little bit too gross for me. The husband, Steve, he also did a great job, all of them did, but I'm not gonna lie, I did think that Steve was getting a little bit nasty towards the end of the movie towards his wife, when he was basically condemning her as this insane woman losing her marbles rather than actually sitting down and listening to her. I think he ended up accusing her of digging up the dead mother and sticking it in the attic at one point. This movie was just, everything. I'm very impressed with it. I cannot wait to buy this on Blu-ray and add it to my collection. Absolutely incredible. I think this is what they call a 10 out of 10 all-rounder horror movie, and these days, guys, that is rare. So that's all of my thoughts on Hereditary. Now let's hear some of your thoughts. Do you guys agree with what I've said in this video? Shout out to everyone who recommended me this movie to review. Let me know what you guys think of Hereditary, and let me know if you guys went to the cinema to watch this. I mean, was this one in the cinema? I can't remember. Was it a Netflix release? Maybe some of you guys will remember. Let me know everything, guys, in the comments box below. Okay then, guys, well, thank you all for watching today's video. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all again very soon.